Let's continue with example 5 in lesson 6. Relate systems of equations and matrices. An algebra teacher creates the matrix shown to describe an exam, where x represents the number of 2-point questions and y shows the number of 5-point questions. Write corresponding system of equations. What does each equation represent? So, in context, we see two different things, right? Where x represents number of 2-point questions, y represents the number of 5-point questions. So if x is 1, that means we got 2-point questions, 1 2-point questions. If y is 1, we have 1 5-point questions, right? So they're representing the numbers. And then we want to write them in equations, looking at the matrices. The augmented matrix shows two equations with two variables. So usually this is the x and that's the y variable, and then that's equal to a constant. What would this represent? Looking at the first one, we got 1 2-point question, 1 5-point question, and we got 19 as a constant. But what would that mean, right? If 19 represents the total number of points, it doesn't make sense because 2 plus 5 is 7, right? You can probably figure out by writing down the equation. X plus 1x plus 1y is equal to c. That means number of 2-point questions plus number of 5-point questions would be 19. So we can say that there are 19 questions on the exam total. And then we have the second row looking like 2, 5, 50, right? So that means we have 2 2-point questions and then 5 5-point questions, and that's equal to 50. So that probably represents our points. 2 times our number of 2-point questions will represent how many points total we got for 2-point questions, and then 5 times y, the number of 5-point questions, would represent how much total point for 5-point questions, and they're adding up to 50 points. So the exam is worth 50 points. Looking at the augmented matrix, we can convert them into equations and we can figure out what they mean. So let's look at part B. What does matrix 1, 0, 15, 0, 1, 4 mean in terms of this context? If we have the same context, but we have different matrix, what would this mean? So let's rewrite this into equation. X equals 15, y equals 4. So that would mean that we have 15 2-point questions and 4 5-point questions, right? Easy. So let's try number 5A and B. See if you can write equations and describe what they mean. Pause the video and come back when you're ready for answers. Okay, are you ready? Let's look at part A. Write the system of equations described by an augmented matrix. Describe a real-world situation that could be modeled by the system. So a real-world situation example could be anything. There is no one right answer for this one, okay? So first, writing the system of equations here, you would probably be able to write x plus y is equal to 10. And then you have 3x plus 2y is equal to 80, and you can give an example of what this may be, how this may be true in real life. If you want to give something like a similar one with example 5, you can say something like, there is 3-point questions and 2-point questions in the exam. The total number of questions would be 10 questions, but if you add all the points, it will be worth 80 points. Or you could say, you could give another example, okay? let's hear that in class. And part B, what would the matrix 1, 0, 20, 0, 1, 10 represent in terms of your real world situation? So whatever your X represents would be 20, whatever your Y represents would be 10. So if you were to follow the same context from example 5, you would say there were 20 3-point questions and 10 2-point questions. Okay, so depending on your context, you have to answer part B as well. All right, that was lesson 1-6, linear systems. Let's look at the summary of our lesson. We looked at the system of linear equations, system of linear inequalities. First, look for the linear equations. We can write augmented matrices. For linear inequalities, we really need inequalities, so we're not going to use matrices, okay? So a lot of times, the solution of linear equations would be just 1, or all real numbers, or no solution. System of linear inequalities, a lot of times it has to be drawn in the graph, because otherwise it's really hard to describe all the points, right? So it's either just an inequality or the graph. All right, that was lesson 6. We'll continue with the next lesson in the next video. Bye!